All right, I want to make a video on using Geogebra to try to use the geometry software to show translations, rotations, reflections. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in Geogebra, and we want to use the classic version. I like that version the best. So Geogebra Classic, and when you open it up, it should look something like this. All the stuff to the right we don't really need. There's a lot of settings, and it can do a lot of stuff with graphing and 3D and probability and all kinds of things that we're not going to do, a lot of programming stuff. But I do want to go over here, and I do want to click on the settings, the global settings. It's this little gear wheel. And let's go to 2 decimal places. So all of our rounding, we'll do that. And we're going to save those settings. Then I'm just going to X out of this so I have a full screen. All of our tools are up here. This arrow tool is the one you're going to use the most. This will select an object and you can drag it around. These are for all different types of points, intersection points, midpoints. These are for all your lines, your segments, your rays. Today we're going to use vectors. These are perpendicular lines, parallel lines, bisectors, angle bisectors, tangents, best fit line if you're doing algebra. We're going to use a polygon tool today. This can make all different types of polygons. Circles. This is your measuring one. We're going to use a few of these today. We can measure angles, lengths or distances, areas, slope. And then, not today, but these are where all of our transformations happen. So we're not going to do reflections today or rotations, but we are going to translate today. And then this one is where we're going to use to make text box. So I'll kind of explain it all as we go. So first thing I want to do is, I want to get rid of that point. I just did that accidentally. So I could just, you do the undo button. That's kind of nice. All right, so let's go over here and let's actually put a grid on this thing. So we're going to go to grid, and I want to show the grid. So there we have that. And I actually would like to have my axes. So I'm going to put the X and Y axis. Now I can just kind of grab this and move it where I want. I'm going to center it right here. So first thing I want to do, I want to make a triangle. So click on the polygon tool, and let's stay in the first quadrant, and let's stay somewhat close. So I'm going to go like 1, 1, and I'm going to click up here, maybe, I don't know. You don't have to do the exact same points as me. I'm going to click right up here, and I'm going to click kind of over this way, and then I got to return back to the beginning and click. So now I've locked in this polygon. Now it doesn't name the letters or it doesn't name the points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my select tool, and I want to select all the corners. And normally I can, if I select one and I try to do another, the first one disappears. So you got to hold Control down, and I'm going to select all 3, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to put Show Label. So now my letters show up here. But then I'm also going to right click, and I'm going to go to Settings, and I want to not only show the name of the label, but I want to do the value as well. That way I can see the ordered pairs. And you can move these to get them in a little bit better spot so they're not, you know, inside the triangle or whatever. So now I have all 3 points. I have their coordinates. And now we're actually going to do a translation. So let's come up here to text box, and we're just going to type, and I've got to click somewhere, but I'm just going to type translations. So these are kind of like our notes almost. So I'm going to put translations up here, and the first thing I need to decide is how far do I want to move this thing. You know, remember, I'm going to double click on this again and adjust it. A translation is simply a slide. It's just we're going to slide that shape somewhere. You know, up, down, right, left. And let's just arbitrarily, I don't know, I'm going to put another text box right here and right below it. And I'm going to put, let's move 3 to the right, and let's go 2 up. All right, 3 to the right and 2 up. So that's the example I want to do right now. So to move 3 to the right and 2 up, to make the shape do that, I need to use what's called a vector. And so let's go here to the tool, and we're going to go down to vector. And a vector is, it's basically a ray, but it doesn't go forever, so it starts. So we're going to start, I don't know, it could be anywhere on the grid. I'm just clicking on this lattice point so I can count these here. So we wanted to go 3 to the right and 2 up. So there's my vector. Notice it has the arrow up here. So it starts there, it stops there. So this shape is going to go in that direction, the exact length of that vector. So let's just come up here and let's do another text box. I'm going to type in vector. Okay, and we're just kind of slide that right there. And vectors have their own notation, all right? And one of them is called component form. So let's do another text box. So I'm going to type in component form. And component form is, it's almost like the less than greater than symbol, but we're going to go to advanced. And we're going to go to this little menu right here, which gives us a lot of other little tools. Actually, take that back. We're going to go to latex formula. Yeah, latex formula, my bad. And we're going to scroll down and see these two. It's almost like less than or greater than, but it's elongated. Click that. Maybe. Click that. It might not let me do it because I returned. Let me just try to I'm going to put component form here, and then I'm going to try to do a new text box. See if it'll let me this time. All right, latex formula. Actually, we'll turn that off. Latex formula. Yeah, so now I get this left angle, right angle. This is like the computer language to make that symbol. Well, I want to put something inside there. So I'm going to add right inside here. This vector went 3 to the right and 2 up. So it's going to be positive 3, comma 2. And when I hit OK, it's going to put it right inside. Go back to my select tool so I can move it. It's going to put it right inside there. So this vector is the 3, 2 vector. Right 3, up 2. The first designates the left, left to right. And then the second one is up or down, positives up, negatives down. So it's almost like an ordered pair, but just with this kind of weird brackety looking thing. So that's this vector, 3, 2. Now we're going to make this shape move. So here's where it gets we kind of animate this thing a little bit. I want to go over to this reflection looking tool, and we're going to do a translation. So we're going to translate by a vector. And notice at the bottom of the screen, it gives me hints on how I do this. So I'm going to hover over it again. It says select an object to translate and then the vector. So I'm going to go translate by vector. I'm going to select this object, and then I'm going to select how far I want it to move. Boom. And it just moved. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to move my screen down so we can kind of see what just happened. So notice my polygon ABC has now jumped to become A prime, B prime, and C prime. And if you notice, every single point should have moved the exact distance of this vector. You know, B went to B prime, A went to A prime, C went to C prime. They all went the exact same length and direction from where they initially were. So, and if I change this vector, this is what's cool. This is why this is called dynamic software. If I were to change this vector, let me line it back up so it's easier to count. But if I were to change this thing to, like, let's say 6, 2, my triangle moves with it. However long I want to make that vector, my triangle moves with it, and the coordinates change the way they're supposed to. All right? So this is what a vector does. That's how you know how far something went. You can just measure the length. And if we wanted to measure how long it went, like from B to B prime, we could do Pythagorean theorem on this vector. We could do 3 squared plus 2 squared and calculate that. Something else we can kind of cheat on here. I'm going to go to my measure tool. And if I measure the length, I can't click on the vector. I don't know why, but it won't just measure the vector. I have to measure from point to point. And now I have a value in there. It says the value's 4. I don't think it's rounding properly. I thought we changed that in our settings, but let me just right click and see. If I go to settings, well, we won't worry about that, but I thought that in the global settings, I thought I changed it to 2 decimal places, but for whatever reason, it's not locking in on this line for me. But we won't worry about that. We'll just kind of leave it, but it's really not exactly 4. It's 4 point something. So I'm I'm going to get out of that just to kind of delete it because it's not quite accurate. You know, it's actually 4 point something, something, something. So anyway, that's kind of the vector notation of how you do a translation. And then in Khan Academy, we kind of learned a mapping rule. So I want to write a little bit about that. So another way to express this is to do what's called a mapping rule. So type in mapping rule. And a mapping rule basically says that we're going to take x comma y and we are going to change those coordinates. And if I kind of move my box out of the way, let's look at the coordinates here. So pick a coordinate like C. C went from 7, 2 to 10, 4. So when I look at what happened to my x, my original x, and by the way, maybe I should pop this little, well, we'll go back to that in a minute. This x went from 7 to 10, so it looks like I added 3 to my x. So mapping rule, every xy goes to, let's go down to our advanced piece here. Move my box back up so I can see stuff. There should be a little arrow. Let's try this one right here. Yeah, arrow. And then I want to space. Every x comma y goes to x plus 3 under this rule. Put a little space there so it doesn't look smashed. And then every y, our y's went from 2 to 4. So just like our vector, they went plus 2. So we're going to go plus 2. And then I'm going to close that off with parentheses and click OK. And so now we actually have the mapping rule that goes with that vector. So you can kind of see the relationship. Either vector notation or a mapping rule, they both kind of say the same thing. But I just want to give you some different ways of how future courses or programming software is going to handle vectors. All right, well that's your quick little tutorial on making translations on GeoGebra. Hey, I'm back at it. I totally forgot. We got to save our work. So go up here to the little part at the top and drop down. I'm going to hit save. And we're going to call this translations. And then that way later on you could go back and you could kind of manipulate this. So just go ahead and click save. And now you got it. If you didn't like sign up or join it before you did that, it's probably going to prompt you when you save. And you can just sign up with Google. You don't need to remember like new passwords and stuff.